What's going on YouTube? OCD for EDC here, and what I got for your face balls today, we're going to be talking about a couple new models from an American knife company. But first, you can check out the board here. Anybody wants to contact us on Instagram, Patreon, go check out our website, ocdforedc.com. There's all of our info. So set that over there. Let's get right into it. So the company that we're talking about today is Spartan Blades. This is a fantastic company that offers a lot of really cool models and some really awesome knives. This happens to be the Spartan Blades Zelos, and this is a side opening auto, aluminum scales, S35VN blade steel, all made here in the US, and a gorgeous, gorgeous knife. So I just brought this one out to show this one off. This is part of what they call their elite grade knives, and this is the packaging that you receive when you purchase an elite grade knife. But Spartan Blades has a couple of new models out, and they come in these boxes right here. So a similar looking box, but a little lesser quality, if you will. But these are kind of more budget-minded blades. And so what we have here is the Talos and the Astor. And we're going to get into these and talk about them. Here is the Spartan Blades Astor. And this one here is the Talos. Good Lord. Okay, so both of these knives are designed by really great designer. You can see this one here is a Les George design. Definitely a well-known knife designer. Has got a lot of really cool stuff out there. And this one here is a William or Bill Harsey design. Now, Spartan Blades makes two of what they call the Spartan Harsey folders, and they are titanium frame lock Bill Harsey or William Harsey design knives. And this one right here, the Talos, is basically a budget version of the Spartan Harsey folder, the small one. And now I hope very much that they do the large Spartan Harsey in this type of fare. I'm assuming that they will, but, you know, time will tell. So both of these knives are coming out of a manufacturing plant in Taiwan. I'm not sure exactly who the manufacturer is, but I'm going to assume that these are coming out of, and maybe potentially even the same factory that Cold Steel uses. There's a lot of similarities here between some of the higher end Cold Steel knives and these two guys right here. These are very well made, very durable and strong and all that sort of stuff. Both are riding on phosphor bronze washers, and both of them are rocking CTS-XHP blade steel, which is super cool. Here it is. It's on the front on this one. So, XHP is an awesome blade steel, and definitely a really cool way to do these knives. I'm glad that they didn't bring these designs out and in something that was 8CR or D2 or something like that. Having them in XHP is really great in my opinion. But what we're looking at, both of these knives are G10 liner lock designs, thumb stud opening. They both have deep carry pocket clips. It's the same pocket clip on both. The Astor is right or left tip up carry. The Talos is right side only tip up carry. And the liner locks they're steel liners. Now you can see on the Astor we have a solid steel liner that's full. Just on the lock side, the show side is just G10. And on the Talos we have just a G10 frame with a lock bar insert, or it's not a full liner, it's just the lock bar itself, which makes the Talos very, very light. So, what are we looking at for dimensions here? I'm going to throw out a couple different knives here for size comparisons. Let's go with something everybody knows. We'll throw down the Bug Out. This is a pretty interesting pairing here. I'm going to move the Zelos out of the way. And then let's throw down the Manix 2. Another interesting matchup there between the Astor and the Zelos 2, or the Manix 2. Anyway, so what we're looking at here, we've got an overall length. I'll just run down the specs super quick on the Astor. We've got an overall length of 8.22 inches, got a handle length of 4.63, and a blade length of 3.59. Handle thickness is just over a half of an inch at 0.519. And then we have a blade stock thickness of an 1/8 inch and a behind the edge thickness on this guy of 22 thousandths. This is not quite a full flat grind, but a pretty tall flat ground blade. Weight on this one is just barely under 5 ounces at 4.998. So that's the specs on the Astor. And on the Talos, you have an overall length of 7.04 inches. You have a handle length of 3.925 with a blade length of 3 1/8 or 3.125. Handle thickness is 0.419 inches, and blade stock is again 1/8 of an inch. Behind the edge thickness, again, we've got a high flat grind, but because this blade is so short, behind the edge thickness is right at 30 thousandths. Weight on this guy is 2.343 ounces, so very, very light for what it is. It's not quite as light as the Bug Out, but we also have, a much thicker blade. And one of the things that both of these knives does extremely well is just the geometry is excellent on both of these knives. And I don't mean from the blade grind perspective, but from the design perspective. So you'll notice on both of these, for the given handle length, they package a lot of blade into that handle. And that's really evident here on the Talos. On comparing it with the Bug Out, the Bug Out is a really well-made knife that is packaged extremely well. You got 3 1/8 inch blade length here, and all in a very small handle, which is fantastic. But the Talos kind of takes this to another level. You can see that the cutting edge is almost identical on these two knives. On the Bug Out and the Talos, you actually get just a tiny bit more cutting edge on the Talos. If I can show this off or not. Let me do it this way. I'm not fighting the pocket clips. Get the ends lined up here. Yeah, so you actually get a little bit more. So line up the tips. We'll come to the tail here, and you can see you get a tiny bit more cutting edge with the Talos. But look, the handle is, considerably shorter on the Talos. So it is just packaged extremely well. So if you're looking for, a very lightweight carry, and you're looking to get maximum cutting edge for a relatively small knife, the Talos is really, really fantastic in that way. The one negative about both of these knives to me is they should have used thinner blade stock. I would have liked to have seen, something like 100 thousandths instead of 1.25 or 0.125, I should say. Because of this flat grind here and it being so short, you just end up with it being pretty thick. Now, that's fantastic for toughness and all that, but this is not a knife that you're going to be going around and stabbing through car doors and that sort of a thing. It is not a pry bar. We've got a frame here that is just 2 slabs of G10, which, G10's incredibly strong. I'm not worried about this knife at all as far as strength and durability goes, but it's not made to be a pry bar, and therefore I would have liked to have seen them use thinner blade stock, which would have resulted in better cutting geometry on that primary grind. The same is true for the Astor. Now this is a little beefier and a little heavier duty knife, but again, to me, neither one of these knives are, big, bad knives that you're going to be batoning with and that sort of stuff. Not saying that they wouldn't take it, but, it's just, that's not the intended purpose of these knives. So in both cases, even though this one does come to a little bit of a keener edge, to me, using 90 thousandths blade stock even would have been fantastic. I think that would be a very welcome improvement on both of these knives, and so hopefully we'll see them thin these out in the future. But that would just lend itself to having a much keener edge and a much thinner behind the edge thickness. Now, of course, they could get more aggressive on the primary grinds to get them thinner. However, you're still going to have, an 1/8 inch blade stock thickness. So, in my opinion, it would be great to watch or see them thin out the blades. And it would make them lighter overall. So, I already talked about the Talos and how well it's packaged. Let's check out the Astor. Same thing here. So, you can see that the handle length is almost identical to the Manix 2. However, we have substantially more blade length, and because of the half choil on the Manix, we have a lot more cutting edge. So if you look at these two, we've got probably 3/4 of an inch or so. Line the tips up there. Yeah, probably something close to 3/4 of an inch. Hell, maybe even an inch of extra cutting edge versus the Manix 2. And I really like the Manix 2. It's a great knife. Ergos are fantastic, but the Astor is really awesome as well. Ergonomics are great. We'll set the Spyderco and the Benchmade off to the side. So both of these knives work well in hand. Pocket clips are great. They go in and out of pocket extremely well. Price on these guys, something we haven't talked about yet. So on the Talos, you're looking at, for this variation right here, the G10, these are $115. They come in black or green, like this one here. And both are $115. They do have a carbon fiber laminate over G10, and that's an extra $10. So $125 for that one. On the Astor, same deal. You can get black, green, or the carbon fiber laminate. And these, for the G10 variant, is $135. And for the carbon fiber laminate version is $145. You do have this little filler tab over here, which is a nice little touch. And so, neither one of these knives are, extreme budget options, but they are extremely well made, really good blade steel, nice action, strong knives from really well-known designers that do excellent work. So I think they're really great knives, and it's something great to see from a company like Spartan, who, most of their stuff is made in North Carolina and, starts at that like $300 range and goes up from there. So for them to offer these that are, just slightly over $100, I think that's a great thing. Real quick, let's we'll pull them both down real quick just to check them out, see what's inside these guys. So I think those are T15 on the pivot. Let's see if I have, yes, I do have a T15 here. Okay. Yeah, T15. Wow. You don't see that very often, but it's good to see. Anytime you have a bigger tool engagement, the better it is. Oh, that's a bummer. And now the body screws are T6. So they did great on the pivot, and then kind of I'd like to have seen T8 on the body screws, especially on the Astor here. It's a little bit larger knife. You could have gotten away with a little bigger hardware. Okay. Let me open this guy up. Come on. Come off there. Wow. The standoffs in the back go into... Okay. So the standoffs are D-shaped, which is really nice. So you can see here we've got a little filler tab where the pocket clip will screw on, which is really good and gives a little bit of structure. And we do have, so we do have a Teflon washer that's riding on the G10. And then we have phosphor bronze that's actually riding on the blade. So you've got phosphor bronze then to Teflon. Action on these is good. So no issues with that. I'm just going to set this down right here. And then we also have got a D-shaped pivot screw, which is fantastic. Here's a look at the liner. It is a steel detent ball, but you can see the D-shaped holes there. Tolerances on this are very good. You do have a little bit of jimping back in this area, which works really well back here on your pinky. And then, of course, you have the Les George Mohawk with a little bit of big rounded off jimps on the spine of the blade there. Kind of signature Les George look. Okay, let's take a look at the Talos. Okay, so T10 on the Talos. Yep. Again, feels like it is D-shaped. We also have, T6. So hopefully we will see them do this field grade version of the large Harsey folder. That will definitely be more my style. But I'm assuming that they will do that. I would say that the Spartan Harseys, I'm sure, are probably their most popular models, I would sure think. But they're definitely the standard tie frame lock Spartan Harseys are, they're on the level. I've got videos on them if you want to go and check those out, but they're on the level of like a Chris Reeve knife or, those types of knives. So they're very, very well made. So we can take a look here at the liner lock. You can see the pocket clip screws there. And so really, this knife here, you're looking at just a G10 frame with that lock bar inserted. Now here, let me see if, oh yeah, look at that. So I'm going to say that was a little manufacturing issue there. So you can see on this side, we've got the Teflon, and under it we have the phosphor bronze. On this side, the Teflon was up against the blade, and the phosphor bronze was actually riding on the G10. Now, action was not as good on the Talos right out of the box, so I'm actually going to flip those washers around, and we will see if we get any noticeable improvement. Knock these washers off. Now, there is a considerable size difference here. Well, that's interesting. Huh. What do we have going on here? Grab a little paper towel. Interesting. So we actually have a phosphor bronze insert that is pressed into the blade. So it's a pivot bushing that is phosphor bronze. That is really cool. And we have larger diameter Teflon and bronze washer on the show side. You can't, those larger washers won't fit on the lock side. But let me get this cleaned up here, and then we'll throw this guy back together in just a moment. All right. Grab a little lube here. Okay. Get this pivot in. So again, it is D-shaped pivot in the carbon or the G10. So that's excellent. And now we're going to put down the Teflon first, and then we will add a little bit of slickum here to the Teflon. And again on the phosphor bronze. Okay. All right. Now, let's see, there probably isn't going to be, yeah, because of the way these washers were installed, there's really no wear pattern that has started on the phosphor bronze. But we're going to put that guy up against the blade. And now, yeah, okay, we'll put them on this way. So I'm just feeling the washers here to feel if there's any edges to them, if they're cupped at all. Sometimes from the manufacturing process where they stamp out these washers, they will have a little bit of a cupped edge. And just making sure that I have that pointed the right direction. Now, I've got a little KPL heavy here that I'm going to use on the detent track. Just put a little drop of him right there in the detent hole. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and close the blade. Now, I like to build knives with the show side down. I know there's a lot of people out there that do not do it that way. It just makes it a lot easier for me, in my opinion, to have, you're not fighting, you know, generally speaking, most knives are set up right-handed, but you're not fighting the pocket clip or the lock bar tension. It's not pushing against you until you're kind of ready for it. So, you know, if you build it the other way from with the lock side down, as you're stacking all your parts, you're constantly fighting that lock bar tension. But to each their own. This was a T10. Alright, so we're perfectly centered here. Oh, I've got it way too tight. Imagine that. Still pretty tight. Back this off just a bit. Okay, we still have no blade play. Wow, this thing's rock solid. I must have tightened that way too much. Yeah. So we're still centered. We don't have any blade play. Action definitely is better. The little Talos here drug quite a bit when I first opened it, and I think a lot of that was due to the incorrect washer configuration. But the Astor had much better action right out of the box. But these are knives that will break in with time for sure, and yeah, they will definitely get better as time goes on. All right, well, there we go. This video is long enough, so I'll put the Astor together off camera, but check them out. The Spartan Harsey field grade blades. They're fairly new, but you can find them at a lot of retailers. They're pretty available all over the place, and I think that we'll see more models coming in the future, as well as should have good availability also. So they're really fantastic, and I applaud Spartan Blades for doing it. It's really cool that people can experience these types of designs at a much more affordable price and still have a decent quality knife. You know, so I really like it. Hopefully you guys do too. I'm gone.